Speaking of Yakep, we got to talk about Uncle Shannon Sharp's crash out. So he of course they have their annual. He goes on First Take annual, and by annual I mean weekly at this point. Goes on First Take, has commentary about Caitlin Clark, about the W, and has Andrea Carter on the platform. And at this point, Andrea Carter is defending herself. But these are some of the words that sparked the timeline into, Shannon Sharp's defense battle that he had to pull off this weekend.
Stephen A., I would be remiss if I didn't say this. A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But there was a lot of people trying to make sure they keep Caitlin Clark in her place, because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize what they done. You can't minimize what Maya Moore or Candace Parker or Lisa Leslie or Lauren Jackson or Diana Taurasi or Simone Augustus or any of the other great players. That Caitlin Clark, what she's doing, doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old guard. Y'all never talked about the old guard like this. Nah, I ain't gonna let it slide. Caitlin Clark, unanimous rookie of the year. But what's even more impressive, she's first team WNBA. First.
Shannon, I hear you, right? I hear you 100%. But another level of noise was coming from people. You were one of them who also tried to create a picture around Caitlin that the league was against her based on the actions of less than 5 former players or current players, which also creates a lot of noise.
So the
solid.
That's scary right there.
So that was the conversation. Whoa. Let me zoom in some. And so Terrence Spike T Joint follows that up by saying, my issue is Shannon Sharp never speaks on the disrespect the rest of the women of the W experienced, always defending Caitlin. The WNBA disrespect didn't start with Caitlin. They've been disrespected for years. Caitlin's buzz made that hate way worse, and people who tried to have the other women's backs got called haters by people like Shannon/Stephen A. Smith, who wanted us to be thankful for ratings boost. Shannon claps back. He's going on his unprofessional tirade like he told Ocho not too long ago. That's your issue, not mine. I have no issue with anything I've said in regards to WNBA and its players past or present. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Where it gets kind of interesting is him admitting that it was his issue. Like, he said it was my issue and it's not his issue. The full conversation is about, these are the people that ESPN have employed. They're going on these platforms and they're talking as if they know about stuff, or they're just not credible. Like, they're not good sources. We've gone past the need for them. Shannon Sharp continues down the timeline as such. Let me pull it up. My bad. I didn't mean to hit in share screen here. Because now at this point, he's fighting the people, right? That's your issue, not mine. This person follows up by saying, oh, I'm sure you don't. Right? Shannon Sharp takes that opportunity to say, why are you on my page? Don't you have another horse to rob of his hair? Stop trying to kill my vibe.
Oh, no.
Now,
and that's
he tried to get it off.
Ain't it?
He tried to get it off. Some people had to tell him why his get off was never getting off. Another person responded, never beating the allegations. And then Shannon says, what was I charged with so I can get my legal team on it? Somebody in the comments says, my brother in Christ, that girl's Avi was Megan Thee Stallion, which you had on your show.
I seen someone say, "We know Michelle's race now."
And so even in that regards, you think Shannon would just be able to take that back? Shannon says, Meg was amazing, and the gift she sent is proudly displayed. Why did the person take down her tweet? That person never took down her tweet. This is just Shannon Sharp avoiding accountability in the situation.
Well, that took a left. I was gonna have a hot take, but no, that took a left. All right, proceed. Or is it time for reactions? Yeah, I'm about to say.
I mean, I don't really know. It sounds like he was trying to get a joke off, and it was a moment that backfired on him. And if anything, motherfuckers got their jokes off on him. Yeah.
To say the least, bad joke. I like maybe I'm just too tapped in, you know. I fuck with Meg, so I was like, ain't that Megan Thee Stallion's picture? And that's just man, especially the fact that they did a podcast together. I forgot they did that. That's not a good move. I don't even need to talk about that. That's just not a good move there. But I'll say this in terms of what was said on television. I think this is a case of even perhaps because I think both didn't say anything outlandish in terms of how, hey, look, I understand that because Dama was alluding to something like this earlier where, I understand that at some point in time, the casual fan needs to learn its history as well. But we don't need to push down accolades, or we don't need to have these graphics or whatever, or extra people are involved, because at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark did something amazing, cool, yippee, whatever. But at the same time, Shawty at the end was like something along the lines of, you only do this with Caitlin Clark, and then you've pushed this propaganda that the league's against her, and it's only like 4 or 5 people. I think they both were having an interesting conversation. I just think that at the end of the day, same thing with I feel about prior to this version of the WNBA, the people that were prior to this version of WNBA fans, people that were from the outside, and not looking in, who are now trying to step inside, please just own your former takes, admit that you're evolving, and then furthermore, admit when you don't know things, because I think it's scary that, and this is going to sound like self-slander, I think it's scary that hypothetically I could be on ESPN and talk about the WNBA, and gang, I've seen 10 games max. So that, I just wish that people knew what they were talking about and then only spoke on what they know.
Keep it short and sweet, man. If y'all calling him Uncle Tom, hey, call me Uncle Ruck. It's no relations. Because I don't think he said anything wrong. He said nothing wrong. The only thing he did wrong from everything I just seen was not doubling down when he commented on Meg Thee Stallion having horse hair. Tell that stallion to get some more hair. You should have doubled down on it, stood 10 toes on it. He ain't say nothing wrong. Honestly, I'm with Sage. Bad joke. Definitely was a bad joke. Not gonna excuse the fact that it was a bad joke. You should have just did 10 toes on your joke instead of trying to dodge it, avoid it, and act like it didn't happen. Or that's kind of the only thing I can say about the whole Twitter thing. Hey man, get Unc off Twitter. Everybody shouldn't be on Twitter. I've had my moments where I had to renege on a couple of tweets going back and forth with people. But that's fine. Hey, you live, you learn. In terms of everything that happened on ESPN, he said absolutely nothing wrong. I literally echoed some of them same sentiments earlier talking about Caitlin Clark and the discourse around Caitlin Clark. So I have no issue with that. What the woman was bringing up, I forgot her name. I genuinely don't know her name.
Carter.
Yep. What she brought up was definitely a good talking point, and that was unfair for, at that time, people legit building these cases based off of very minuscule things or very few people in the league or around the league to build these cases against Caitlin Clark like this was just a league-wide issue, when, like she said, 5 former or current players are really to be held accountable for these things, but we're making it seem like it's just a day-by-day, night-by-night, team-by-team basis.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing is about, because this is a chicken and egg conversation, I guess. I know a lot of people will feel like the chicken would be first, but I want to say first for Shannon, you're a weirdo. Your first thought, because I looked at a lot of those tweets. I participated in the thread. Again, if you want to attack black women, but don't try to do this whole I love black women shit. I can see where a lot of this shit gets tiring, because it doesn't necessarily stop at just black women. It happens to all people, and we're not gonna say that it happens to all these people. People got to get over it. That shit is stupid. Call it out. Shannon Sharp was in debates with a lot of people in that same thread. Never once did he have to jump in to something that is like an anti-black women comment. He looks like a dumbass for doing that with it being Meg Thee Stallion. And both of them are industry people. So them even being on the same platform together, it was a whole ass industry move. But Shannon has been a weirdo and proven to be a weirdo, especially even just a couple weeks ago when he did that fake Instagram live sex thing. He's been weird. That shit is weird. To the whole ESPN thing, and this is where the real conversation lies for me, because we can continue on to them firing people. He's like, they're liars in how much, and this is where a lot of people's problem is, how much you care about the sport that you claim to be covering is a lie. If you would just come out and say, yo, I'm doing this because of the business needs, then people will be okay. Because this year we've seen how much ESPN has done a huge detriment to like sports. I don't know if did y'all see the article that was like the CEO of ESPN or whatever, one of the higher ups at ESPN was like, yo, we're not going, even though we have the rights to the WNBA, we're purposefully not going to put them on these networks. Did y'all see?
I did not see that.
Yeah, they were just like, no, it's a trash product. Nobody wants it. But this is like in the mid 2000s. So this whole time where people are like, yeah, nobody was watching it. And then they acknowledge that there's a gap. Well, the gap was intentional because the nigga took it off. They just took it off. Like they decided to take it off. But Shannon Sharp, and this is the people's problem, Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith claiming that, yo, we cover you guys, we talk about, that doesn't take away, but never talk about him. The podcast account went and did some research on Shannon Sharp. Out of the 148.8 thousand posts from Shannon's Twitter, 7 tweets with CeCe, Clark, Caitlin, 5 tweets with Angel Reese, 3 tweets about Kelsey Plum, 0 tweets with the words Taurasi, DT, Diana, Collier, Gray, more tweets about Stewie Griffin than Brianna Stewart. Yeah, the fake care is just we've seen through it. And the whole time that they have these people up there fake caring about sport, they're firing what people seem to think is like good reporters. Did y'all see them fire Zach Lowe today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so they fire Zach Lowe, but then they get these caricatures to come on the platform. And I think that's what people have a huge issue with, you know, the new way that the media landscape is going. And ESPN continues to push away from what people would think are like good practices when it comes to building a media company about sports.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and build on that. So like Omar just said, it was announced today that ESPN laid off Zach Lowe, ESPN NBA writer for 13 years, widely regarded as one of the smartest people on the platform, a guy that doesn't hot take hunt. A lot of the clips that you see from him, he is the one, you know, spitting facts and being objective about everything, But a bigger conversation that I want to talk about on this podcast is ESPN as a whole moving forward, especially as guys that are a part of sports media to some degree on the independent lens. It was announced I think it was last week, Woj decided to step down from ESPN, so that wasn't necessarily a layoff, but also this summer, JJ Redick was hired by the LA Lakers, a guy who used to frequent ESPN First Take. If y'all remember when JJ first showed up on First Take, how everyone loved him being on First Take, because again, he was spitting a lot of good pause. He was talking a lot of good shit on the on the show. And I do have a list of other names that they've laid off because they had a massive layoff in 2023. So they laid off Jeff Van Gundy. I'm gonna just name some notables: Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman.
Wait, you missed the first. Todd McShay.
I don't know who Todd McShay is. But
Yeah,
Todd McShay is like the draft guy. I don't even know who's a draft guy for the NBA. I don't even think there's a draft guy. Maybe I'm
Fucking Woj.
No, I'm like one that actually looks at the people. But
Probably
Yeah, I
isn't
know what
one.
you mean. I know what
Sage
you
might be
mean.
right.
Yeah.
Sage might be right though. So Todd McShay, Keyshawn Johnson, and then the Jeff Van Gundy, like all these people right here.
Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman,
Neil Everett was crazy.
Yep.
Is that
That's
Chris
the
Carter?
Vince
in there?
Carter. Chris Carter was FS1.
Hasselbeck gone. Andre Ward gone. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Andre Ward gone.
But long story short, in a pretty short amount of time span, they have let go of a lot of what a lot of people consider great sports media talent. And the signings that they've done over the last year as well to combat it have been definitely more entertainment focused. Trying to get bigger names, Pat McAfee, Shannon Sharp included. So the conversation I want to have with y'all is ESPN getting worse and worse by the day? Well, that's kind of a given, but like what is the state of ESPN and what is it looking like moving forward?
So for me, I'm gonna nerd this up. So you've ever like for some are not gonna get this joke. You ever like played Pokemon? But like, have you ever tried to like ride a bike in a store and then it doesn't let you do it, and the professor goes, "There's a time and place for everything, but not now." That's how I feel about ESPN nowadays. I think like, sure, entertainment's cool. Entertainment on television is awesome. Isn't this supposed to be the place where I'm learning about sports, though? I'm not going to lie. If I turn on ESPN, obviously agenda push, a level of entertainment is valuable. But ultimately, I want the people on ESPN to know what the fuck they're talking about. And I do have a higher standard for them because, again, they are going to be seen as the literal – it's hyperbolic to say this, but like if you're on ESPN as a sports analyst, I'm supposed to think that you're one of the more qualified people on the planet to talk about sports. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the reality of what we live in, but at least try to stick to the gimmick a little bit. God damn, it's sometimes, and again, I said earlier, it's sometimes I'll watch a First Take clip and I'm like, damn, I could be on First Take. And it's like, hey, gang, some of you niggas think I'm a casual, even with Laker basketball, and I try not to miss Laker games. But let alone like random side games like with the Magic or the Pistons or anything like that. And then we could keep going further down the rabbit hole. The WNBA, these guys clearly sometimes just don't know what they're talking about. I think ultimately ESPN, in terms of its overall brand product of being a television show, hot take, will probably be fine. It's just the changing of the guard. But in terms of being a sports show, a show that can be seen as like educational, or a network, that can be seen as educational, that shit's looking cooked.
I think they've been checked out of being the educational sports network a while ago. This is just an indictment on the death of the viewership on ESPN, and I kind of could tell it was raising alarms when they gave Pat McAfee all that money after the shit they gave him. I don't know if people are familiar with Pat McAfee's show long term, like been watching for a while, but before he got on ESPN was hoeing Pat McAfee. Like they weren't allowing anybody that was signed to ESPN to go on his show. They weren't allowing him to commingle with anybody under ESPN. They was making it very hard for him to do shit. So for them to give him all that money to be on his platform, to have his platform essentially stay the same, just be under the umbrella of ESPN, I knew their numbers were being killed. And that was the way to try to fix it. You top that with, we're getting Shannon Sharp and we're going to unload a bunch of these long tenured analysts, journalists, writers, all these other people to compensate for entertainment, on-screen entertainment. I knew what it was already. They're trying to be an entertainment center. They're trying to get as many eyes as possible because niggas are clicking off fast. I understand you look at the numbers that Skip Bayless was pulling FS1 is like, well, hey, we ain't that bad. It's still bad enough for y'all to make decisions like this. So them making this decision lets me know it confirms everything I knew about ESPN going forward the last 4 years, I would even say. The company was dying. Now, is this going to save it? I don't think so, but I love to see him scrape, crawl, and fodder around, man. No diddy.
I just want to get this off because I do agree with Damo in the sense of they're definitely like, if there were two sides of the fence, one leaning towards analytical and entertainment, they've definitely pushed all their eggs towards the entertainment side. And we've even had conversations as guys who do sports content on YouTube that, hey, motherfuckers don't really want to listen to your analytical schmitical talk. Mm-hmm. They want to listen to the entertaining debates, the passionate debates, even if it's casual as shit. I'd rather see two casuals yell their ass off than two nerds nerd it up. I will say this, if that's the game ESPN is trying to play, that's not the game you want to play because of the fact that you are a Disney company, because of the fact that you're a corporation. people can't even get their shit off for real. Like, if that's the game you want to play, no, like, Stephen A. Smith is not going to get his actual takes off on First Take that would get you these clicks that you're looking for. Shannon Sharp as well. Like, he's a watered down version of what he is on Nightcap on First Take, so on and so forth. So, like, if Gilbert Arenas was on First Take, hell, we've even seen it with, when Matt Barnes is on First Take. There's a difference between First Take Matt Barnes and All the Smoke Matt Barnes. That's not the game ESPN wants to play because they're going to lose that battle.
I think that, and right before you go, Omar, I know you still need to go.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get to a point to where they have the Nightcap or some iteration of that on ESPN. They're going to get Shannon on ESPN. I agree. First Take isn't going to be where they get their shit off. Stephen A. gets his shit off on the Stephen A. Smith show, though. Pat McAfee, he gets his shit off. They gave him the freedom to get his shit off. I think there is a change coming to ESPN, and they're realizing that now. Now, I could be wrong, but going forward, don't be surprised in the next year or so, next 2 years, you do see Gilbert Arenas sign a deal, like get signed or brought in to do his show on ESPN, and they give him the freedom to, I'm not going to say just be as unrated as possible or unfiltered as possible, but definitely way more lenient than we've seen any other ESPN product before. I do think that's going to be something we do see.
But
Not as a Disney company.
Yeah,
But go
see,
ahead.
the thing is, one, like Vsauce is saying, there is a cap. One, there's a cap because they're on television, full stop. There's a cap because they're on television. Two, there's a cap because there are going to be sponsors and partners that they have to appease. And three, there's a cap because they're a Disney company. So you can only go but so far. Like, and I'm not even saying that these guys are the most edgy guys or whatever the case may be, but if they wanted to go full on fresh and fit, but the sports version, they could, because there's nothing that ties them to it. There's no relationship, there's no partnerships, there's no person who's lying to them over their head, because a lot of them will talk about that. Oh, you can say this on there, and then you get on there and you say it, and then you face some sort of backlash and repercussions. They're scared of that as well. So they wouldn't do that. And also because they've had a taste of their own success. You can say, like, I believe they could throw a huge bag at Gilbert. The things that would have to happen, the constraints that they would have to give Gilbert would make it so unappealing to Gilbert. And he would have to come so far out of his element. And he's already tasted so much success doing his own thing. There would be a lot of, Gil would look at himself and have to, like, it would have to be so much money. I know there's really no amount of money or whatever the case may be, but the justification will have to be so great for him making that move that they really couldn't even justify it. I can't see them putting on 3 or 4 or 5 different shows, paying what it would cost in order for them to get a Nightcap on there. It would cost them a greater deal of money to get Nightcap on there based off of the money that Nightcap is generating, right? For them to get a Nightcap on there, deal with the fees and the fines and all that stuff like that, that's too much. And to me, they chase the entertainment route. And I think the entertainment route is a route that will always fail you in the long run. There will always be somebody younger, sexier, more entertaining that will come and replace you. The same way I feel about comedy. But if you're building genuine relationships, if you're building real insight, real thought-provoking things, or whatever the case may be, then that is where people can build real connections with you.